All right. As soon as somebody gets here, you can tell me whether this works or not doing it this way. And then hopefully we can get through doing this video. Basically, a few minutes ago, I tried to do a live stream doing a live reaction to this video, and my system won't allow the audio to do the right thing, so you couldn't hear what Buggerlugs here in the background was saying. So as such, we'll try it again and see if you can hear it this time around. So as soon as someone's here, if you let me know you're here, so that I can then check with you that you can hear the video, and then we can carry on. Yes, hello, I can see somebody is here. Who's here? Tell me who's here. 36 people are here. Good. All right, good afternoon, Tracy. Right. What I need to know from you, Tracy, as quick as you possibly can, is when I press play on this video, are you able to hear it?
About the first day of June 2017, I started eating a hyper-carnivore diet, which means I was getting at least 70% of my calories from animal.
Okay, you can hear that video now. Can you hear it loud and clear? Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. All right, in that case, what I shall do right now is flip to another screen, this one, and I'll start as if we're just starting the video now, and that's how I'll edit it when it becomes a pre-recorded video after the fact here. I suppose we should probably have the lights on too, so you can see my beautiful young face. Right, 3, 2, 1. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and super intelligent shades of the colour sky blue, pink, however you identify, we really couldn't care less. Basically, the situation is this. I don't feel like doing editing right now. Neither do I feel like paying someone to do editing right now. What I feel like doing is getting the message out there. What I feel like doing is spending some time with you all as kind of a free office hour this afternoon. Those of you who are able to, that'll be great. What I'm going to do right now is record a video. It's a reaction video, one of my classic Who's Wrong on the Interwebs videos. Only you're going to get to see it live as it happens, off the cuff, off the top of my head, no rehearsal. I have not watched the video we're going to react to through. I don't know what this gentleman's going to say, except for the first couple of minutes of it that I heard a few minutes ago when I tried to do this another way and you guys couldn't hear. So, those are the caveats. I have not heard this video. I do not know what this individual is going to say. I'm going to respond off the cuff using the old pause and continue functions. Hopefully that goes off without a hitch. And yeah, enjoy, basically. So the video is entitled Why I Quit Carnivore. Why I Quit Carnivore. And I suspect probably the reason is because he never really was a carnivore and he did it wrong. But we'll find out what his excuse is, and we'll put it right where it's wrong. And I suspect that pretty much that's going to be everywhere. Anyway, we'll crack on with that. But before we do, just a quick promotion. Don't forget, folks, in New Zealand and Australia, that hardcore carnivore stem enhanced formulation is available for physical order right now. Stock is in hand in the office. It's going out the door today. Well, yesterday and the day before as well. But it is now available in the physical. It exists. You can order it. It's not a pre-order anymore. It's real. So make it happen, guys. Let's get that product ordered up so that the office runs out of stock and have to make some more. That'll be awesome. That way everybody else in the world will probably get a shot at hardcore carnivore formulation stem enhance 2. Furthermore, just before I crack into the video, if you personally, if you would like to visit Pimbatia, meet myself, Pim Queen of Pirates, first of her name, mother of puppies the unpoked, she who hates singing, and His Royal Highness Ted, King of the Bears, Prince of Pimbatia, Field Marshal of the Meat Militia. And if you'd like to do some stuff here on the farm for us, then we'll do some stuff for you, like feed you and house you and stuff. It won't be an employment situation, you'll be a visitor. Stay as long as you like, as long as you're useful to us. And then after that, we'll get rid of you somehow. Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be an awesome experience. You'll learn something about farming. You might be able to teach us something about farming because we knew at it too. Anyway, here we go. Let's hear about why it is this particular individual here is no longer carnivore, and we'll put him right where he's wrong. All right, off you go. I don't even know who this is. Somebody sent this to me an email and said, can you respond to this? Okay, so just confirm once again when I start that you can still hear him and it's still working properly, so I don't crap on for several minutes and you can't hear him. Right, so with no rehearsal, off the top of my head, and possibly some singing, here it goes.
About the first day of June 2017, I started eating a hyper-carnivore diet, which means I was getting at least 70% of my calories from animal products.
No, false. There's your first mistake. In fact, you were not getting any calories, consuming any calories, or spending / burning / otherwise excreting any calories. Calories, my good friend, are by their definition and by their actual measurement manifest in our objective reality as we understand it as excitations of the electromagnetic field, which we also understand to have no rest mass, 0, which means that it cannot be brought to rest in any inertial frame, i.e. it does not interact with the Higgs field. What that means, my friend, is you cannot eat calories or consume calories or bring calories to rest in any way, shape or form. Sorry about that. No calories were involved at all, in fact. All right? What's next?
Primarily eggs, dairy products, and the flesh of steers.
Gosh, that's not quite right, is it? Eggs, dairy products, and the flesh of steers. That's not what you should have for breakfast, is it, boys and girls? What should you have? Steak and eggs and steak. That's what you should have for your breakfast. Delicious. Eggs and steak and eggs. Just making sure you heard. I think they got it, Ted. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Yes, so eggs and steak is what you need. Plus or minus the dairy. Dairy's fine if you do well on it. I quite like goat dairy, personally. I do well on that. Raw, mind, so that might be a factor as well, who knows. And the flesh of steers, you just mean beef, don't you? So steak and eggs and steak.
Also known as beef. Here's an example of what I was eating in June of 2017.
Okie dokie, so it's animal products, and some more animal products. Okay, that's great. Joey is an insurance salesman. Okay. I doubt that very much. I would suspect that Joey probably hasn't sold a single insurance policy in his life, and if he does, I'd be very, very surprised. Joey's an insurance salesman. Interesting. Yep. Yes, indeed. How often do I drink alcohol and what type? More often than I should, which is never at all. And it's usually beer or wine of some kind. No good on spirits, me. I'm actually an alcoholic, so when it happens, it's an off-piste thing, and I have to reset to, it's been 1 day since. So, yeah, that's me on that. Dairy. Alcohol, not a good thing, folks. You shouldn't be going anywhere near that stuff. Okie dokie. Right. What's next? This person, whoever they are.
On June 20th, 2017, I ate 7 large eggs, 2 slices of bacon, 75 grams of beef sirloin.
You can see why this wouldn't fit into the song as well. That's what you should have for breakfast. Delicious. My song's better. I'm sure it is.
4 ounces of heavy cream, 2 tablespoons of bacon fat, 8 ounces of...
So an example of what you ate one day that you recorded that day, telling us that it was typical for what you were eating every day, fine. Whatever. We can read.
80% lean ground beef, a half cup of sour cream, a teaspoon of fish oil, a cup of bone broth,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 ProThera multi-mineral tablets. That provided 2,250 calories, 141 grams of protein, 100.
Yeah, no calories at all, still none at all. No calories can possibly be consumed. It is against the laws of physics as we understand them. Okay? Yes. So, best ad I've seen in a long time was a ball game that, and the crowd was going off. So guy had a what? Do you speak English, Josephine C? Oh dear. Okay, whatever. Right, good. Yeah, 7 large eggs. Deadly. Right. Anyway, make some progress.
79 grams of fat and only 15 grams of carbohydrate.
Right, so, what ostensibly is a hypercarnivore diet. Great, no problem with that. What could your problem with that possibly be, my friend? Let's hear it.
All of that carbohydrate coming from sour cream, eggs, cream, bone broth, and bacon.
Yeah, I'm not sure bone broth is a great idea, folks, but that's for another day.
Before attempting the hypercarnivore diet in November 2016, after about 5 years on a diet free of animal products,
it's coming, isn't it, boys and girls? Brace yourselves.
a whole foods plant-based diet.
There is no such thing. That is an oxymoron. Plants are not food, appropriate food for human beings, let alone whole foods. What he means is vegan, and should say that. He's probably just not saying that because of the negative connotation that saying you're a vegan quite rightly attracts.
My total cholesterol was 154 milligrams per deciliter.
So what?
My LDL cholesterol was 78.
So what?
My HDL was 60
So what?
milligrams per deciliter. Triglycerides were 78 milligrams per deciliter.
So what?
And fasting glucose was 88 milligrams per deciliter.
Okay. So you can see where this is going already, can't you, boys and girls? This idiot's reason for quitting the carnivore diet is going to be his numbers got negative according to some ignorant ass trumpet in the medical fraternity and scared him out of it. Okay, well that's a real shock, isn't it? What a surprise. What a surprise. All right, let's see if my summation is correct, and that's where he's going with this.
All of this was stellar.
According to whom, on the basis of what? Exactly. Shall we wait for that? Also, just as an interesting test, are you able to hear the crickets in the background now? Because my audio system is mad. Can you? Or can you not hear the crickets? Yes? No? We can wait. Very good, you can hear crickets. And the first finger on the button, the fastest finger was Kayla Zamalia. Very nice, well done. And your prize is you get to watch the rest of the show with everybody else. And you don't have to stay behind after class and do the dusters with all the latecomers, who absolutely do have to stay behind and do the dusters. That's what happens next. For those that are joining us late and will be staying behind to do dusters, what's happening is I'm doing a recording of responding to someone's video. Only I'm doing it live because I don't want to do editing, and I don't want to pay for editing either right now. And this might be something different and a bit of fun anyway. Do feel free to send me all your money to thank me very much for doing this live and letting you basically sit in on a recording. Yes. Just reading through some of the comments. Crickets, very good. Crickets. Yes, we hear the crickets. Okay. 60 HDL is not stellar. According to whom? On the basis of what? Exactly. Jeff Nelson. Now, let's just make it clear. This is not the Jeff Nelson who's the veg-tard that runs the veg-tarded Jeff Nelson veg-tard channel. This is a different Jeff Nelson, who's one of us, a card-carrying carnivore and a good bloke all around, just so everybody knows. This is not the veg-tarded Jeff Nelson. Okay? Right. Yes. Yes. Okay. Right. Good. Okay. Let's carry on.
For some reason, my globulin and phosphorus were both a little bit below normal range.
Okay, well, who's to say that normal is optimal? Why would you want to be normal? I wish that I was normal, just the same as you. Should I dress myself up formal? You're all singing it, aren't you, in your heads? I know you are. Not singing! Right.
At that time. Within a month of adopting the hypercarnivore...
Oh, well, there you go. Obviously, that's why you've quit carnivore. That's dreadful, all of that, isn't it? Absolutely dreadful. Let's deal with it case by case, though.
...diet, my total LDL and HDL cholesterol reached 419 milligrams per deciliter, 293, and 110, respectively.
So what? Still. Exactly so the fuck what? So the purple fuck what? What is your point?
Yes, you heard that correctly.
Yes, we did hear it correctly, but we don't care. We're asking you, so what? Knowing full well that the answer is there is no so what. Because, well, the level of lipoproteins in a person's blood are under the control of that person's genes, those genes being the peak of evolution, having survived the entire evolutionary process up to this point, at least 3,800 million years, probably a lot longer than that. They really do know what they're doing very, very well indeed, and need no help whatsoever from the ridiculous allopathic community to try and pathologize people whose numbers aren't in the middle of some bell-shaped curve somewhere, frankly. What's next?
My total cholesterol was 419 milligrams per deciliter.
Yeah, so what?
And my LDL was 293
You've already said that, and still, so what?
milligrams per deciliter. Put otherwise, compared to my lipid levels in 2016...
Yeah, who cares? So fucking what? Your lipid levels are reactive. Your genes are reactive to the environment in which you place them at any given time. And what they will do is they will optimize your levels to the best of their ability. In other words, they will set things up best conduced to your continued existence, longevity, goodness of everything, your effect in the universe and all of that. There are reasons why the various levels of the various lipoproteins go up and down in response to various changes in dietary pattern to some degree. So what?
When I was still avoiding animal products, after being on a hypercarnivore diet for less than a month, my total cholesterol was more than doubled.
Yes, so fucking what? So what?
And my LDL cholesterol was 3.75 times.
Yes, we can all do mathematics. None of us are impressed by the numbers on the board here because all of us understand that lipoproteins play no causal role whatever in the development of atherosclerosis, heart disease, or in fact any other disease, unless there are insufficient transporter proteins of this kind, generally. Except, of course, for one subpopulation of about 1 in 1 million human beings who has a complete knockout. They usually die early, and it's not because of too much cholesterol, it's because of insufficient cholesterol in the cells, because of the knockout of the receptor that takes them there, or the receptor that takes the transporter out of the bloodstream and gets the payload delivered there. All right? So, there it is. There it is. This is why you love me. I thought it was the sweet nothings that I whispered into your ears late at night. Those close moments of sharing and caring. Did they mean nothing to you? Damn nice. Goodness. Right. Why the fuck would you get a blood test 1 month after starting a new way of eating? Or indeed, why would you get a blood test at any time whatever unless you were symptomatically in a pathogenic situation of some kind and needing a diagnosis confirmed or refuted via that blood test? On what basis would you take routine testing? other than you're trying to put together an argument here, because you're actually, it seems, a card-carrying veganerised fucktard here in this video, who wants to now paint the picture why carnivore is so bad and dangerous on the basis so far of nothing but the levels of various lipoproteins in the blood, none of which have anything to do with pathology in any way, shape or form really to speak of, and certainly not as predictors of pathology, being reactive and all. So it just doesn't make any sense. This guy knows high lipids aren't a problem. He just wants to eat carbs. How do you know that he knows that? Back and forth all the time, switching between high, low carb. Yeah, okay, so he's a flippity gibbet with his diet personally, one of those idiots. Okay, he's done paleo and low carb for many years before being a veganerised turd. Okay, but once you're a veganerised turd, once you've sucked that lollipop, what you've shown us is that your IQ is less than about 60. You're an absolute fucking moron, and probably nothing you have to say from that point forward is worth hearing, really. Sorry to be such an absolutist, but that would seem to be my take on it. Anyway, right, what is next?
Higher. Notably, although my globulin level rose into the normal range, now my albumin level was above the normal range, and my phosphorus rose by 0.2 milligrams.
Okay, and now are you an expert of any kind in physiology, or even better, pathophysiology, in any field whatsoever, that you could actually sensibly discuss those findings with an audience, live on camera, if I challenge you to explain why all of those things are good, bad, or indifferent, necessarily? Could you do that? Because if you couldn't, you probably shouldn't be making this video at all. Should you?
Still below the normal range.
Yes, and again, so what? Because, once again, who's to say that normal is indicated? Because if we look at the normal status of health of people in the Western world, would you want to be normal? Or would you want to be like us carnivores? Extra normal. Extra good on top of normal is what I mean. Yeah. Yeah.
Many friends who saw this report warned me to stop the hypercarnivore diet.
On the basis of what? Exactly. Other than the lipid hypothesis, which is demonstrably incorrect, because lipids do not cause heart disease. Period. Just while I'm thinking about it, while it's wending its way across the bottom of the screen, don't forget, those of you in Australia and New Zealand, the hardcore carnivore formulation of Stem Enhance is available for you to order now, as in the actual product. We have it in stock, ready to ship now. It's no longer a pre-order. The stuff actually exists in the universe, and you guys have to buy it to prove to Cyril that it's a viable product for the international marketplace. The pressure's all on you, Australia and New Zealand. Don't let the world down, because they'll come looking for you, as will Ted, and he will bring his bucket of soapy frogs and that wetsuit that has the bottom cut out of it. He surely will. Also, if you, yes you, if you'd like to visit us here in Pimbatia, in the person, and do some stuff for us here, we'll do some stuff for you. We'll house you, we'll feed you, we'll help you to find stuff around here to do holiday type things outside of the stuff that you'll be doing here on the farm. Maybe about 20 hours a week is what we'll ask for, something like that. It won't be an employment situation, you'll be a guest. We will look after your safety, of course, while you're here, in terms of on-farm hazards, like Ted. We'll manage the hazard of Ted. We'll keep you safe from Ted, so long as you behave. Our first two visitors should be arriving this Friday, and we're excited to have them. It's going to be great. Some slaves around the place. It's going to be awesome. Really is. If you'd like to be one of the people that has gone through that situation and survives it, to come out the other side to talk about it and tell the judge later, you just need to send us an email at the address which is floating by the bottom of the screen, pretty much starting in a few seconds. There it is. That's the email you need. Send an email, and Ted and I will decide whether we think we should have you here as a guest. And yep, it'll be awesome. It's gonna be great. Don't worry. It's all fine. Everything's been taken care of. You just need to get here. Okay. Yes, Trace, you can come and catch a snake. If you like, honey bunny. Yeah. We're in New Zealand, by the way. We don't have too many snakes here. But you can still come and catch snakes. If you want. Right, what's next?
Nevertheless, despite getting good advice from good people...
No, that was bad advice from ignoramus, who really have a very serious ego problem, in that anyone who is not themselves a well-published expert in something like cardiovascular pathophysiology should not be commenting publicly on that issue, and should not also be advising their friends on the basis of some kind of perceived consensus about what the science is or says. Okay? You're not competent. You should not be doing this.
Trying to be helpful, I continued the dumb diet, and in September 2018...
The dumb diet. The species-appropriate, species-specific diet that humans have developed on, evolved on, and has been the diet for almost the entirety of our existence on this planet, is now suddenly dumb on the basis of some theory about lipids and heart disease, a theory which is wrong. Incredible, isn't it? Really incredible.
My total LDL and HDL cholesterol were 352,
so what?
239,
so what?
And 102.
Guess what I'm going to say? So what?
Respectively. My phosphorus level remains slightly below the normal range.
So?
And now my fasting glucose was 103 milligrams per deciliter.
So what?
Indicating that after 15 months on the very high saturated fat diet, I was becoming a type 2 diabetic.
It actually suggests nothing of the sort whatsoever, at all. There is absolutely no evidence extant anywhere that can suggest that a level of 105 on your fasting blood glucose is at all problematic in the case where that 105 is rock stable pretty much 24/7, and there are very few diversions away from that level, which is homeostatically set. Okay? No evidence whatsoever that that's diabetes or even pre-diabetes or a problem in any way in the case where that level is rock solid stable. An average of 105 might be a problem if there are huge diversions away from it one way or the other throughout the period of a day, because that would mean that there would have to be periods a lot higher than that for the average to be that, because there'd also be troughs below that as well, wouldn't there?
This increase in my fasting glucose occurred despite the fact that on the hypercarnivore regime, I significantly reduced my body fat.
Right. Indicating what? If you had excess body fat to lose prior to this image here, if that is indeed even you and even what you did at the time. I suspect it may not be, but I don't know.
To the point that my waist circumference was under 31 inches at a height of about 69 inches.
Okay, which is in the range that is thought to be optimal in terms of that which is associated with the best health outcomes. So what's your issue? Because is that association not valid too if you're going to take one between lipids and heart disease?
Ignored the elevated cholesterol and fat.
Okay, it seems the earlier footage was you. Fine, okay.
Fasting glucose, rationalizing that it was no issue because I was getting so lean on the outside. Okay,
well, is there any evidence that anything else was happening on the inside? Did you get a DEXA scan done? Did we find a vast increase somehow in your visceral fat around your organs? In which case you would have had to have had 2 DEXA scans to substantiate that. Did you do that? I'm going to go right ahead and pick you didn't do that. And this is just theology.
So I didn't stop. I was possessed.
You were possessed. No, you were set free from possession, actually. Jesus. See what I'm up against, boys and girls, on a daily basis?
And I didn't know it. In addition to these lab findings.
What lab findings? Some measured and some estimated values of some lipoproteins and 1 or 2 lipids in your blood without you having any understanding whatever of the meaning of any of them or their prognostic value, if any.
From the start of the hypercarnivore diet, I experienced muscle cramps.
Right, so you changed your diet overnight, didn't you? You hammered over quickly. You said, right, I'm going carnivore tomorrow, and you did it. That's what you did wrong. I told you, he never really was a carnivore, and he did it wrong. Okay, you don't do that, folks. Change your diet from anything to anything else, if you're going to change it, slowly, glacially, over weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, ideally. Don't change your diet overnight. That will mess your microbiome up. That will cause inflammation. That will also cause electrolyte disturbances of all kinds. Basically, the bacteria in your guts will be going to war with each other for the limited resources and the changed resources and stuff. They'll get pissed off with each other. They'll exude chemicals that mess up your gut lining and cause inflammation and cause you to become leaky in terms of your electrolytes and all that kind of stuff. And you'll probably get cramping. If you just got cramping, that was mild. Some people can get really serious diarrhea from changing their diet too suddenly. Please don't do that, folks.
A common issue for people on diets low in plant foods.
No, a common issue for people on all sorts of diets, especially if they change their diet suddenly, in fact. And plants are still not food for humans, by the way, are they? No. All right. How are people getting these results? And I'm still a fatty after 5 years. I don't think you're a fatty, Tracy. I think that's nonsense. I won't have it. It was probably the LDL that terrified him. Yes, you're getting that, are you? That clearly seems to be what the issue is. So far, he hasn't mentioned anything else, really. Okay, he got some muscle cramping because he did the wrong thing by his gut. That's expected. He got some results on a lab test about some lipids in his blood that he was scared about because he's got no knowledge in the field to understand that everything that's being said in that field by allopathic physicians who are bought and paid for is nonsense. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And other such similar comments as that. Right, what's next?
Due to increased urinary mineral losses.
Ah, well then, that's interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Especially when you change your diet suddenly, yeah. One of the things that prevents an over permeability or leakiness of the kidneys to electrolytes is an insulin spike every day or so. And on diets rich in carbohydrates, there's no problem with that. People, in fact, they have chronically elevated insulin above what is natural, normal, or indicated, and they actually get hypertension as a result of that, pretty much. And it's actually that leads to heart disease more quickly than anything else. If you look at the actual cause of heart disease, which we can do later if I feel like it. And yeah. So this is one of the reasons you don't change your diet very, very suddenly. You need to get your body used to having less often elevated insulin and to a lower level so that your homeostatic mechanisms and hysteresis mechanisms can reset to allow this to take care of itself properly. And as such, at the front end of such a diet, it's probably a good idea to supplement electrolytes until your body does re-establish a new equilibrium. Gosh. My doc saw my LDL at 207 and said they want to see it below 200. I know better. Yes, me too. You shouldn't be doing anything of the sort, actually.
And dietary potassium deficiency.
No, not at all. In fact, we don't have dietary potassium deficiency. Go.
On the advice of advocates of low carbohydrate diets, I took extra salt and supplemented potassium to counter the mineral depleting effects of the low carbohydrate, high protein diet.
No, that's not a chronic effect of the diet. That statement, by omission of a statement, caveating your statement is what happens to people in the first bit of the diet if they don't actually do an appropriate transition, and if they don't take the right form of electrolytes in the right way, there can be issues with that. Yes, there can be issues with any dietary intervention if you don't do it right. So, for example, there you go. There's one example. Yeah, one example. Yep, so his diet sucked, clearly. Or he's just mindlessly regurgitating the idea that you will be deficient in potassium on a carnivore diet, which is false. Why would you be? There's plenty of potassium for the needs of a human being on a carnivore diet, in a carnivore diet. So there's nothing to worry about in that regard.
However, as a consequence of increasing my salt intake, I started retaining water and developed an issue with lower limb edema.
Right, so you took in too much salt, or you took it in the wrong format, or in the wrong ratios. You did it wrong, basically. You probably should have talked to someone like me who knows what they're talking about, who could have helped you get it right. That would have been a good idea.
Eventually, during 2019, I acknowledged that the very low carbohydrate hypercarnivore diet was simply potassium deficient.
Well, it's simply not true. That's your opinion that you've just given us. And your opinion is based on anecdote, ignorance, and being swayed by some other people or some other people's opinions. Your opinion is not swayed by science of any kind or description, and as such, its utility should be caveated thusly.
As indicated by my need to take potassium supplements to prevent cramping.
All right, so on your vegan diet, you didn't have to take various supplements to prevent dying? And no, you don't need to take a potassium supplement on a carnivore diet chronically, ongoingly, if you formulate it remotely correctly and approach it remotely correctly.
And since a high salt intake both failed to control the severe muscle cramps and caused water retention.
Yes, it's not just the intake of the amount that's important. Once again, it's the format, the various ratios, the timing, and the medium by which that's delivered, which are all important. All things that someone who knows about this could have helped you with, had you bothered to actually ask someone who knows what they're talking about, instead of listening to your mindless fucking friends who do not, perhaps.
I reduced my salt and fat intake. And
so how did reducing your fat intake come into that? We were talking about your electrolytes. Why would you then suddenly reduce your salt and fat? What is the logic there, besides no logic at all?
Resumed eating high potassium fruits and reduced red meat, eggs, and whole milk.
Again, reducing all of those things that you absolutely should have been eating. What's the logic behind doing that? Why? Because somebody told you your lipids were off and you had a little bit of cramping in your legs, which is expected based on what you probably did. Nothing of any actual substance, though. Just an excuse to make a video bagging on the carnivore diet, probably actually based on a bunch of fabricated nonsense, I would suspect. I suspect this guy is actually a card-carrying vagoon.
Intake in favor of more poultry, and especially 2% milk, which supplies more sugar, magnesium, and potassium.
Yes, because we all know how vital sugar is for our lives, don't we? You fucking idiot.
Than meat. This led me to call my way of eating meats and sweets.
Oh, right. So you joined the Refuting Club. You sucked the Paul salad I don't know sausage, did you? Wow. Incredible. What a dumb fuck this guy is. Incredible.
In my carnist delusion.
Yes, your carnist delusion. No, your delusion, pal, is that human beings are not best conduced on a carnivore way of living. because that's what we are. That's how we've evolved. That's how our organ systems are designed. That's how our body plans are. That's how our biology is designed. All of that is absolutely clear to anyone with the first clue on any of it. So not Milty McMilty Pants from the Vagoon Club. We can't be carnivores, you see, so we don't have sharp, pointy teeth like this, he says. Oh, okay, Milty. Well, there it is. There it is.
I thought I was really onto something.
No, you really are not onto anything. You really are the dumbest fuck I've heard this week on the interwebs.
In 2020, both of my parents died.
I'm sorry to hear that, but what's that got to do with the price of fish in China in 1965? Can you take stem enhance and plasma flow while water fasting? Yes, yes you can.
My mother died under intensive care after enduring coronary artery bypass operation.
Okay. And did she eat a carnivore diet all her life? No? Okay.
The operation...
So that's no comment about the carnivore diet then. It's just the fact that your mother died of heart disease. Or the results of surgery into attempting to reverse said heart disease. Okay. Sorry about that, but, you know, just the facts here. Yep. Okay. Yes, this is definitely a propagandist we're dealing with here. Absolutely.
Was deemed successful, but my 85-year-old mother died of post-operative septicemia.
Okay, so an infection then, most likely, probably through the surgical incision. That happens quite often. So not even heart disease directly, but the results of the operation. Actually, a patient can get septicemia and die after any operation where they open the body cavity up.
And kidney failure 10 days later in intensive care.
Okay, that's dreadful, but it's nothing to do with the carnivore diet. And I suspect, probably correctly, that your mother did not undertake a carnivore diet all her life. So your statement that she died of heart disease has nothing to do with the topic at hand.
No one but my father could visit her during the ordeal.
Yes, because it was around about that time, and you're lucky, I guess, that anyone was allowed in because they didn't care.
Due to the 2020 pandemic.
The what now? Pardon?
Rules. 6 months later, my 87-year-old father died with prostate cancer.
Okay, so again, did he eat a carnivore diet his entire life for 87 years? If not, what is your point? I'm very sorry for your loss.
His last 6 months were miserable.
I suspect so.
As a consequence of his conventional prostate cancer treatments, he had a urinary catheter and urinary difficulties that led to repeated infections and bouts with edema and kidney failure. Watching my parents die with these diseases woke me up.
In what way exactly? And to what? What was it that you were woken to?
I realized that I had resumed eating an animal-based diet.
Which is the correct diet for a human being, absolutely and unequivocally, yeah?
Partially, or to a great extent, in order to avoid conflict with them.
Explain.
But they died from or with a set of diseases linked to animal-based eating.
Ah. Well, shark attacks are linked to the sale of ice creams. Does that mean we deal with the shark attack scourge by outlawing ice creams? You mindless fuck. No, we don't. Drownings in swimming pools are connected with the release of movies starring Nicolas Cage. Does that mean we should ban Nicolas Cage from ever appearing in another movie? I think we should. But it's got nothing to do with drownings in swimming pools. It's just my opinion on Nicolas Cage. Sorry about that, those that like Nicolas Cage. Sorry, not sorry, just the facts. And a diet consisting of animal foods plus nonsense that I would guarantee your parents ate throughout their lives, i.e. plant material, as well as meat materials and fat materials. How can you decide what the causative agent was there with anything remotely similar to scientific integrity of any kind? You can't. Did your parents, either one of them, eat a 100% carnivore diet? No, they didn't. Your entire line of rationality here is in fact not rationality, it's irrationality. It's nonsense, it's ridiculous, it's laughable, and that's what we are all doing here right now, here in the Meat Militia. Aren't we, Ted? Yes! See? Ted agrees. We are laughing at you, you ridiculous clown. What is next? Buffering. That's what's next. Jolly, jolly buffering. What the hell? Oh, well, let's talk amongst ourselves while buffering's occurring. How do I find a doc here in San Antonio that understands carnivore diet? What do you want a doctor for? I don't know. Why would
On
you?
the hypercarnivore diet, I was putting myself at risk.
No, there are no studies that can inform any given individual on their risk of anything whatsoever as that relates to any aspect of their diet at all. Risk is not something that the current literature is able to inform us upon. No. False. More buffering. Maybe the interwebs is finally getting it that it should stop and think before it says things. Perhaps not while I'm trying to get it to say things, to correct those things though, interwebs. It's quite frustrating, isn't it? Brain fog, yes. Incredible brain fog. Not to mention arrogance, Dunning-Kruger, all of that. Never do live presentations. This is why we don't usually. This is why we normally bother with the editing.
For the very same diseases. The natural LDL cholesterol range is between 50 and 70 milligrams per deciliter.
Absolute fucking nonsense. No such thing is in fact true at all. False. Rubbish.
As found in healthy human newborns, native human populations, free-living primates.
Primates? So babies and primates. You fucking idiot. You haven't even done your basic research, have you? Jesus.
And other wild animals.
So what? None of those are free-living humans that are adult, are they? Western society adults. Why do you think those people living subsistence diets might be struggling to maintain a higher level of LDL, for example?
None of these populations develop atherosclerosis.
That's also completely, absolutely fucking false. Another complete lie. Not true.
Randomized controlled trials.
Ah, yes? Which words of those have been used inappropriately with respect to whatever you're going to refer to? Because in terms of randomized control trials on human beings, there aren't any. They do not exist. There are only the closest approximation to that is possible ethically, financially, and practically. Unfortunately, that's a long way from the actual standards of science that requires quite a lot better discipline than that in terms of randomization, selection of participants, number of participants to make a good statistical inference, proper control and observation of every other potential confounding factor, covariate, collinearity, or anything else. Basically a lifetime under lock and key in a laboratory. Can't do it. So it's just theology. It's just ridiculous anti-scientific theology being espoused by a complete cock monkey who wouldn't know science if it jumped up and bit him on the arsehole. In fact, he wouldn't know his arsehole from his elbow if I labelled both and taught him how to read. It's ridiculous that this clown is making any public comment whatever on this topic. He's completely out of his depth. It's embarrassing for him and his nation and his family and everyone associated to him in any way. They should all be ashamed and hang their heads and stuff. Off you go. Start hanging.
Have shown that atherosclerosis progression and ischemic heart disease events are minimized when LDL cholesterol is below 70 milligrams per deciliter.
No such thing has in fact been shown. That is a complete fabrication. Absolutely false. If this individual, whoever the purple fuck he is, would like to come and debate me on whether or not what I've just said is correct as to what does and does not exist in the literature, he would be very welcome to contact me for just such a public debate. Because I'll tell you what, as among other things a former cardiovascular pathophysiologist myself, I'm really well aware of what the literature behind the field of endeavour says and doesn't say. Okay?
And there are no major safety concerns in any trials that lowered LDL cholesterol to the range of 50 to 70 milligrams per deciliter.
Also a complete lie. Also completely false. Just rubbish. Untruths. Lies.
This study found that even in people having so-called normal LDL levels, defined as less than 160 milligrams per deciliter, LDL cholesterol was independently associated with both the presence and the extent of atherosclerosis.
No, in fact, the study doesn't show any such thing. And if you'd like to debate with me on that as well, Charlie Brown, whoever the purple fuck you are, you'd be welcome to do that as well, because actually you haven't given us any statistics that would give us any reason to take the veracity of the statement around association remotely seriously, i.e. what was the form of associative statistic that was being applied to the data set that you're looking at. What kind of data was it in the first place? Okay. And what was the value of that statistic in terms of its predictive capacity? Because I'll tell you what is associated on the X and Y in terms of heart disease and LDL is actually not a dose-response relationship. It's a normal distribution curve which eliminates any possibility of the thing on a normal distribution being causative to the disease events, doesn't it? Yep. What a shame. Yes, I found another fucking idiot on the interwebs. Sorry about that, I couldn't help myself. It happens all the time. Yes. Alright, good. So I'm glad you're all caught up with the fact that I have discovered yet another mindless cunt trumpet here on the interwebs.
Further, this study also found that LDL cholesterol levels predict the presence and extent of atherosclerosis even in individuals who had none of the other conventional risk factors.
No, it doesn't. The study does not establish that claim whatsoever empirically with a decent statistical inference of any veracity. False. One of us, out of you and me, my fine feathered friend here, whoever you are, one of us is also a qualified statistician. It's not you. Okay? But do please come and debate me live on this. It'll be hilarious.
Such as smoking, blood pressure above 120/80.
Yeah, and what's the most common cause of that? Oh, yes. Hyperinsulinemia. What's the cause of that? Oh, yes. Ingestion of toxic contraindicated exogenous carbohydrates.
Fasting glucose below 100, total cholesterol above 200, or HDL below 40 milligrams.
Just because something is associated with something else in a piss-weak at best association, that does not mean that it's a remotely acceptable claim to say it's now an independent risk factor, because risk necessarily invokes a cause and effect mechanism must be at play. And it doesn't take more than a couple of seconds to dismiss any possibility of a cause and effect, dose response, disease process versus LDL. It does not exist. It's a fallacy, it's a fantasy, it's a theological construct put together by people who get paid a lot of money to sell people dangerous contraindicated metabolic poisons. However, what's lacking behind this idea is any actual correlation between those two factors. Still. Wonder what's next.
Per deciliter. In other words, the greater the LDL cholesterol, the more atherosclerosis.
No, that's not what the study shows either. Still, did you read the thing? Did you actually look at what the outcome variables were? Because it's unable to report on the extent of anything. Their outcome variable was number of lesions. Well, that doesn't tell you anything about the extent of the disease, because a lesion might be big, small, or intermediate sized. Ergo, someone with 3 lesions might have vastly more progressed atherosclerosis than someone with 300. You absolute cocksplat. You ignorant, arrogant Dunning-Kruger sufferer. How dare you presume yourself confident to make a video where you can remotely, accurately, critically analyze a body of literature and come to a reasonable conclusion? You are completely out of your depth. You are destitute of the first clue. This is beyond a joke.
Regardless of other risk factors.
No, there are still no risk factors established.
Seventh-day Adventist vegan vegetarians
Oh, fuck, here we go.
have average LDL cholesterol levels of 1.8 millimoles per liter,
So what?
which is 69.6 milligrams per deciliter,
So?
putting their levels in the natural range of 50 to 70 milligrams per deciliter.
No, that's not the natural range still. That's the range expressed by those people under those circumstances.
The range associated with the absence of progression of atherosclerosis.
Except, Charlie Brown, that in the study you're talking about there, the Adventist Health Study number 2, what they did is they took 5 subpopulations of Adventists and they called them the 0th, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd and 4th quartiles for meat consumption, and that's associated with LDL levels as a proxy. They also measured LDL levels in a different arm of the study as well, but basically what they found was that in fact the raw data as collected, as observed in this observational, non-controlled, non-scientific X versus Y coincidental association study, what they found was the higher the red meat consumption, the higher the LDL cholesterol, the higher the death from all causes, including heart disease. Also, the largest data set available on the association, coincidentally, X versus Y, of cholesterol and all the subclasses of cholesterol as well, versus mortality, heart disease, cancer, all forms of common forms of death. Same deal. As soon as the LDL drops below 220, which is the actual natural level for a human being living optimally, the death rate goes up precipitously. So everything you're saying is completely 180 degrees out of phase with sensible observations and remotely rational and competent assessments of those inferences. What you're doing is spouting a theology that you've learned from somewhere without the skills to see where it is that your faults lie in terms of your assessment of this material. Oh dear.
And minimal risk of coronary
There
heart
are no studies still that can inform any person on their risk of any health outcome as it relates to any aspect of their diet. Still, none.
disease. This 2007 study compared lipid levels of meat eaters, lacto-ovo-vegetarian.
You mean people that told the researchers what their diet was, and those researchers wrote down what they were told and believed it absolutely, despite the fact that time and time again people's dietary recall has been shown to be vastly inaccurate. Ergo, from the very ground up, this ridiculous nonsense will not hold any water.
lacto-vegetarians, and vegans. Only the vegans had average LDL cholesterol below
Still, so fucking what?
70 milligrams per deciliter
Yeah, so?
at 69, compared to 88 for lacto-vegetarians, 101 for lacto-ovo-vegetarians, and 123 for meat eaters.
No, that says omnivores. Do you see how omnivores is quite different from meat eaters? Sure, anyone that eats any meat is a meat eater, absolutely, but you're inferring now that the carnivore diet is bad in your video. And you're giving us your reasons why you quit, which were your blood lipids were out of the range that some idiot told you was optimal for some reason. And you had a few cramps because, well, you changed your diet too suddenly, and that's going to happen still. This diet here is an omnivore diet you've just put the arrow by. That's not a carnivore diet. So that can't inform us on any outcomes as they regard to carnivore diets, can it? No. Maybe the problem here is the Randall cycle. Perhaps you should go and learn that. Or folks could join myself on Dr. Kiltz's live at 5 a.m. thing on the interwebs at 5 a.m. tomorrow US time. We're going to talk about the Randall cycle, among other things, I'm told. That's going to be awesome. Love me some Dr. Kiltz. What's next?
Thus, this study found that the more animal products consumed, the greater the LDL cholesterol level.
Yes, and that's what we would expect. It's also not a problem. So what?
This has been my experience as well.
Yes, because that's what we would expect. For most people under most circumstances, it's still not a problem.
As shown earlier, on the hyper-carnivore diet, my LDL cholesterol was ranging between...
Oh, God. The brain fog, the repetition. Yes, you went on a carnivore diet, your LDL and your total cholesterol both went up. So what?
230 and 300, or more than 3 to 4 times the natural level that prevents atherosclerosis.
No, prevents is a cause and effect statement, isn't it, boys and girls? Show me a study that proves that to be the case. There isn't one, ergo, pop yourself directly to fuck. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, and do not make any more fucking videos, you mindless cunt. How about that?
And coronary artery disease events.
No, false, not true.
In contrast,
Look at the raw data, sunshine, before they adjusted it, i.e. fabricated a result more conducive to their theology by using multivariate regression. Smoke and mirrors. Tell you what, when you've done your first undergraduate module on multivariate regression and are competent to actually undertake one yourself, Charlie Brown, whoever you fuck you are, then come and debate me about that as well. Because that's the minimum understanding you would need to even qualify for the discussion. And I'll still tear you 7 you assholes.
in 2016, after eating a whole foods plant-based diet for 5 years,
There are no such thing as a whole food plant-based diet. Plants are not food for human beings, let alone whole foods still. Foods for human beings are meat and associated fat, plus or minus eggs, plus or minus dairy, salt and water if you like it and need it, rinse and repeat.
my LDL was 78,
Yes, we heard your numbers the first time and we didn't care then either.
very close to the optimal range of 50
No,
to
optimal according to whom? On the basis of what? Still on the basis of some proposed consensus based on no science of any kind whatsoever. Still.
70 milligrams per deciliter. That was the lowest LDL cholesterol I have had since 2006.
So what? And it's not a good thing necessarily. Remember the precipitous increase in mortality associated with every single change in LDL level below about 220?
When I started getting levels tested.
That's in a data set of several hundred million at least, probably several billions, I think. Actually, 168 countries and territories around the world. Come and debate that with me too if you like, Charlie. And I'm only calling you Charlie because I've got no idea who you are and I couldn't give two rip-roaring fucks either.
Using the Framingham risk calculation.
Right, so a construct put together by some people on the basis of their arbitrary decisions about risk, because there's no science, still.
The lipid levels that I had in 2018 on the hypercarnivore diet doubled my 10-year risk of incident.
No, that's a statement about risk which is not supported by science at all. It's an opinion, it's a bought and paid for opinion, it's a vacuous opinion, it's an ignorant opinion, it's an arrogant opinion. It's just absolute fucking cock-splattery and nonsense. And you, sir, are severely mentally retarded, clearly.
Heart disease compared with the lipid levels that I had in 2016 on the vegan diet.
But he's really struggling, isn't he? I mean, already we're 11 minutes and 58 seconds into his video, and he really hasn't been able to pull any threads of any value whatsoever. He's just repeating the same ridiculous nonsense over and over again, expecting that listeners will just accept it because it's said enough times. He's probably right. That's the problem. That's why I do what I do, to try and put it right. Hopefully more people will see this video than his. Then I will have had a positive impact on the world. Just like the way I do by suggesting to you that you absolutely ought, if you're an Australian or New Zealander, to get yourself some Stem Enhance Hardcore Carnivore formulation. That way the rest of the world will be able to get it too soon and they won't come looking for you. And if you are not in the Australian and New Zealand market, you should get the standard formulation, which has been available for some time and will continue to be available in the hereafter as well. And just wait until we've proven ourselves here in this marketplace so that you too can have Stem Enhance Hardcore Carnivore formulation, where we've removed any vestiges of plant material, basically. So get that done. That'll be great. Or if you'd like to visit me here in Pimbatia and Her Majesty Pim and Yellow Ted and do some stuff here for us, we'll look after you and we'll house you and feed you and point you in the right direction for holiday type touristy things around here, and everyone will win. It'll be great. Plus you'll get to meet us and stuff, so long as Ted agrees to your visiting, and he's a tough taskmaster as Ted. Right, what's next?
Many people do not know that elevated cholesterol is also a risk factor.
No, not at all. You're talking about associations again. Association cannot establish cause and effect, ergo it cannot inform on risk. No.
For prostate cancer.
No, false.
And other cancers.
No, false. If anything, in fact, it seems like the incidence reports are exactly inverse to what you've just reported there in terms of one's cholesterol level and one's incidence of mortality due to cancer and its sequelae. Okay, so you clearly haven't remotely done your research. You might have done some cherry picking, looking for some papers that purport to support your ideas that you wanted to, and under the idea of confirmation bias, you just latched onto those. They'll do. That's enough. I'll just splash that up on the screen for a few seconds. Nobody will question it, and everyone will think I'm ever so clever for doing all this research. No, we think you're a fucking idiot. We think you're a mindless cocksplat of the highest order. We think you're an offensive theologian who should sit down and shut the fuck up permanently, or at least until you have some level of credibility to speak about this publicly. How about that? I know, I'm asking a lot.
Tumors need cholesterol to grow, and we have...
They need a lot of other things too. Yeah. Like a fuel source. What's the most common fuel source that cancers use? Oh, that's right, glucose.
Evidence that elevated serum cholesterol levels promote the growth of many types of cancer.
No. Not at all. I guess you're talking there about in vitro studies on cell cultures, because there are no studies on human beings to see who gets cancer in the real world, are there? No.
Particularly prostate cancer. Human and animal studies, as well as cell biology models.
Models, and what studies? Exactly. Because the study you've got up on the screen right now, well, that's an opinion piece, isn't it? That's not an experimental piece of work. We have a new member in the Meat Militia. We've won you over, have we, old Greg? Glad you're with us here in the Meat Militia. I too love cholesterol. Yes. Fuck, the echo's good in here, isn't it? Yeah, I was just saying just that, wasn't I? Pretty much. Right, what's next, cocksplat?
Suggests that high circulating cholesterol levels increases risk.
No, No such study can support such a claim, irrespective of what you are going to say next. No. Still.
Of aggressive prostate cancer.
I tell you what, the best chances of getting aggressive cancer are, if that's something of interest to people, mess about with your genetic structure in some way by maybe injecting some kind of thing into your body that messes with that in such a way as to promote such turbo cancers. I don't know if such a thing exists or not, but I've heard some rumours around the place. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
The authors of this study reported that lipid levels of prostate cancer patients are significantly higher.
Why do you think that is, you absolute fucking mindless cunt? Why do you think that might be? Given that the rate at which cholesterol is synthesized is under the control of the genes, and the genes will synthesize it to the exact level required that is best conduced to the ongoing longevity of that human being. Might it have something to do with the fact that every cell membrane of every cell in your body is 50% by weight and by volume made of cholesterol, molecular cholesterol? Okay. Jesus. Seriously. Right, the carnivore cure. I'm 25 months carnivore. Congratulations. Lost 320 pounds. That sounds dreadful. Healed congestive heart failure. Good. That sounds dreadful as well. And got free from home oxygen dependency and got off all medications, and your cardiologist still says he's worried about your diet. This is what I'm talking about. All of those things seem dreadful, don't they? Dreadful. I'd suggest you go back to the diet that caused you to be ill in the first place, because doctor said so. Or you could realise that doctors are not trained in nutrition or pathophysiology. Actually, they're trained in differential diagnosis and intervention to such diagnoses. Intervention, it's really just symptom management, either through pharmacological means that they're trained as to which ones to give out under which circumstances and not question it, or surgery. No? Okay.
Than those of non-cancer patients. They also performed a rodent study.
Oh, well, next time I'm talking to a rat, I'll make sure I tell them about what you're going to say next. In the meantime, those of us that humans probably don't need to listen too much further about the rat study.
That confirmed that cholesterol and saturated fatty acids synergistically promote the progression of prostate cancer.
No, promoters cause and effect. Even such studies on lab animals still don't control things adequately to be able to talk about a cause and effect. And even if they did, rat physiology and human physiology is not the same thing. There are a lot of similarities, absolutely, I'll grant you that, but they are not the same thing. Ergo, to suggest that something is true in one species, ergo is true in all species, well, if that was the case, if something that's true in one species was true in all species, if I cut my left arm off right now, it should grow back, because some animals will do that. No? Okay. You see, one of the officers, lads, has had his leg bitten sort of off. Oh, no, sir! Off! Yes, I'm sorry, off. This is very Monty Python, the whole thing. It's ridiculous. Right. Julian! Jesus, you're still with us. No, it never ends, Julian. It never ends. Neither does my bagging of Nicolas Cage. If you weren't here earlier, you missed it, because I gave that argument again, that old cherry, about Nicolas Cage and swimming pool drownings. Love you, by the way. There's nothing you can do about it. I haven't heard from you for a while. Where have you been, young man? And what do you suspect is going to happen with the old cryptocurrency bizzo, with the old bits of coin or whatever they're called? Do tell. Right. And how's my down theorems going? Are they still down? Don't know. Right. Yes, take responsibility for your own health. Good. Good plan. Like it. Right, what's next?
These authors reported that prostate cancer proliferation is influenced by LDL cholesterol availability.
Yes, we can all read the title of the paper and what it purports to be able to sensibly discuss. Sunshine. Does it actually do that, though? Are you going to actually analyse this paper at all to see what's actually behind the front cover and see whether it's actually got anything of any value to add to our knowledge of cancer or anything else, sunshine? Especially as that relates to the intake in a human being of a 100% carnivore diet for the lifespan. Because I think you'll find it doesn't say anything about that still. No?
Restricting LDL availability led to a reduction of cell growth, and supplementing LDL promoted the cancer proliferation. These data indicate that when I was eating a hypercarnivore diet...
So just because cancerous cells consume a lot of cholesterol because, well, they need to keep replicating, does that mean the cause of the cancer was the cholesterol? No, it fucking doesn't. Jesus H. Christy on a bicycle. What stuns me, boys and girls, is that every day absolute mindless buffoons, destitute of the first basic comprehension of anything, make these kind of videos, and people in their droves take this bullshit seriously without for a moment stopping to challenge this ridiculous, completely vacuous, utterly fallacious, anti-human theology, underpinned by absolutely no science of any kind whatever. Hello, Faye in the UK. Faye in the UK. No singing. My partner has just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Sorry to hear that. He's a high-endurance cyclist. He spent his whole life on a high-carb diet. I told him that's what caused the cancer, and I've got him on carnivore. Okay, well, probably the statement about cause and effect is a bit strong. Nonetheless, the carnivore diet is a good start. Absolutely. And if you want some more advice, absolutely get in touch with me at the bit.ly/BART-KAY link underneath the video in the show notes so that we can talk a bit more about cancer and stuff. Or you can just watch some of my videos on that topic. I don't claim to be an expert in cancer, by the way. Neither am I a medical professional. But I tell you what, I do know quite a bit about pathophysiology, physiology at large, science, statistics, all of that. So you'd probably get something of value out of it. I don't give medical advice or anything like that. I just say, well, look, here's what's wrong with what you're being told from a scientific point of view. Make your own mind up. Right, Julian, $10. Appreciate those. They'll keep the lights on for a bit. They're doing good, are they? Does that mean I've got some up theriums now instead of down theriums? I had down theriums for a long time. Okay. Right. Well, that sounds good. Let me know at some point. The immune system would target cancer cells, and it needs cholesterol too. Yes, that's also true. What are my thoughts on ivermectin? Ivermectin is a class of drug which is designed as an anti-parasitic. Its mechanism of action is to block the glutamate pathway to various parasites that rely entirely on that pathway for survival, and such it kills them. Luckily, or serendipitously, or whatever, one of the pathways favoured by cancerous cells in the human body for many forms of cancer is also the glutamate pathway, and as such, ivermectin, as it relates to cancer, may or may not be a useful additional intervention on a case-by-case basis, along with a few other things like probably blocking glucose as well would be a good idea. There's a means by which we can do that, and a few other anti-inflammatory things that we need to do as well. In fact, there are 5 health hacks you should probably follow. You could probably just go straight to my video on that if you want to, and that will school you up on all of that stuff. Also, if you want to see more of me doing stuff live and talking about things on the interwebs, you can do that at 5 a.m. US time, well, 5 a.m. Dr. Kilt's US time, wherever he is in the States. At 5 a.m. with Dr. Kilt's tomorrow morning. We'll be talking Randall cycle and some other stuff too, probably, depending on time. Yeah. Okie dokie.
I was increasing my risk of...
Still no studies that can inform you on your risk of anything as it relates to any aspect of your diet. Still not one anywhere. False, you arrogant, ignorant cunt.
Suffering my father's fate.
which had nothing to do with a carnivore diet because he didn't eat one of those, did he? He had a mixed diet, which is about the worst diet you can possibly consume, actually, in terms of outcomes. Short term and medium term. Long term, the worst one's vegan.
Whereas elevated serum cholesterol promotes prostate cancer.
No, that statement is entirely unsupported by science. That's a theologically based, opinion-based interpretation of an inference which is piss poor at best.
A whole foods plant-based diet
There
including
is no such thing still. Plants are not food for human beings, let alone whole foods, still.
soy products may inhibit prostate cancer growth.
May. See the word there, may? That's the thing that they do on these so-called scientific papers. They write the word may there because then that covers them, because it leaves may not as well entirely on the table and actually makes no statement about the likelihood of either at all. And if you had the first clue about anything, you'd know that.
This study,
In actual fact, anything containing soy, many cancers are promoted by an estrogenic environment. Is that enough said, or should we spell that out some more as well?
published in Nutrition and Cancer, compared the immune functions of man.
Immune function as defined by whom? According to what? What was the schema? What are the income and outcome variables of such a study? Are you going to look into the study at all, or are you just going to tell us what the study purports to be able to sensibly make statements about without any ability of your own to actually analyse the fucking study? Oh yes, that again.
Male vegetarians to the same number of age and sex matched meat eating.
All right, there are no other degrees of freedom between different sets of human beings other than their gender, sex, or their age. Nothing else. We don't need to equate them in any other way. That's a matched pair, is it? Wow! The level of scientific nous this bloke doesn't have. It's just incredible, isn't it, kids?
Controls.
Controls? Age and sex. That's all you need to control. Now they're controlled. Because we said so. Good.
The authors reported that the cytotoxic activity of the natural killer cells of the
Measured how? Because cytotoxic activity is a construct, an idea. What are the outcome variables? What was measured? Using what methodology? Can we see the stats so we can look at whether or not the analysis of those stats is appropriate at all? No? Okay.
the vegetarians was double that found in the meat eaters. They concluded that this enhanced natural cytotoxicity may be one of the
See, there's that word again, may. Maybe not two.
factors contributing to the reduced cancer risk.
No, not risk. No, study didn't look at risk at all.
Found in vegetarian population.
Risk in these studies is actually a fabricated statistic based on adjusted observations, i.e. fabricated observations, i.e. take a view of how many incidences of cancer occurred in a certain population, ignore that completely and adjust it to a different value based on multivariate regression. And the false belief that you can tease out causality that way when you in fact can't at all. Good.
In this study, men with prostate cancer were assigned to either a control group or a group prescribed a soy-rich vegan diet along with...
Oh my God, seriously. Seriously. Wow. Yeah. Bart Key? Who's Bart Key? Is the on that still? What? Is the on that still used? The brain and logic. Ah, see, and punctuation is important. But, colon, or full stop, or dot dot dot. The key is. Okay? See how that works? That way your meaning is clear. Annabelle! Good to see you. Super good to see you. Yes, and we should talk. You need to come and visit us. No more excuses. We're having slaves come and do some farm stuff down here, and we need some senior Meat Militia officers to whip them into shape and stuff and things. All right? Yeah. Seriously. You'll love it. You'll love it. It's like the Hotel California here. Right. What's next? More live reactions to more pustulous excremental garbage from an absolute fuckturd, a theologian, clearly a vagunarized fuckturd of the highest order, and someone without the first clue of what he's talking about.
Some supplements. Aerobic exercises
Doesn't exist. If you're going to suggest that anaerobic exercises also exist and that differentiates them from those in some way. All exercise is aerobic in human beings. All of it.
and a set of yoga practices. Those men who were prescribed the vegan diet had a 4% reduction of prostate-specific antigen.
Yeah, but what did they actually eat? Because being prescribed something in a study and actually doing something might not necessarily be the same thing. Were they locked in a lab so that the observers could in fact observe and make sure that they did what they were supposed to do? What else did they do, by the way? Was there anything else that happened in these people's lives that could possibly have affected their outcomes other than what diet they were prescribed to eat? We're still waiting for you to show us any science at all.
Whereas those in the control group had a 6% increase. Further, similar to the previous study, this study found that serum from men who most closely adhered to the whole foods plant-based diet.
How do you know? Were they watched? Were they observed? No? Okay. Dear oh dear. Dear oh dear oh dear. It's incredible, isn't it, kiddies?
Inhibited prostate cancer cell growth by 70%, compared to only 9% for the serum of men in the control group.
Right, so the fact that you don't know what any of them actually did eat seems to seriously erode the ability of that finding to be of any value or use whatsoever. Not science. Sorry about that.
There were no changes in testosterone in the intervention group.
So?
This study randomly assigned 58 men at high risk of prostate cancer to
According to whom, on the basis of what?
Consume one of 3 protein isolates containing 40 grams of protein.
Okay, how long did this study go on for? How long were these people locked in a laboratory under observation to make sure they adhered to the absolutely controlled protocol of this particular study such that no other possible covariate, collinearity or confound could possibly have affected the outcome in any way, shape or form? And in fact, did they report what they observed or have they adjusted it? Shall we wait for that? No. No. Buffering again. More buffering. Yes.
Every day. Group 1 received soy protein isolate rich in isoflavones. Group 2 received
And what else was in that formulation?
soy protein isolate with little isoflavone content.
And what else was in that mixture?
And group 3 received cow milk protein.
And so what? Nothing differs between cow milk protein and those other 2 formulations. Whatever else was in them as well. Okay. And did you have genetically identical twins kept in labs throughout their lifestyles from the time of their birth so that nothing could possibly affect how each one of them would individually respond? So that they would both respond the same way so that you can make a cause and effect statement? Was that done? No? Okay.
During the 6-month intervention, prostate cancer...
People always say to me that when I say these kind of things, I'm just being unreasonable. I'm just being unreasonable. My epistologic standards are too high. No. What is unacceptable is making a cause and effect inference or statement on the basis of a study that is so ill-disciplined as to not even be able to approximate or make a guess at what a disciplined, properly scientifically robust study would actually find were it possible to do one. It is not my fault that we cannot do good, robust, valid science on human beings. It is not me being unreasonable by insisting upon those standards for people who want to make cause and effect statements with surety and ignorance and arrogance and Dunning-Kruger dripping from every single pore of their bodies.
Incidence was more than 6 times higher for the group.
What was the baseline incidence? Because if you had 1 incidence of cancer in one group and 6 in the other, you'd be able to say the incidence was 6 times, but the absolute difference might have been 5 people. 5 people out of how many? How many did this study look at? Well, the one you've got on the screen right now says N equals 2. 2 people. So you're probably not even talking about the study that's on the screen right now, because you can't get the result you're talking about with a study that looked at 2 people. Sorry, 53 people. N equals 2 was referring to some subgroup. My bad. So you should read the thing carefully before you comment. All right. So that's not a huge incidence change, is it? Signal to noise ratio, because, you know, small sample size, huge noise. You need a massive sample of people properly controlled to make any kind of statement here, which doesn't exist and never will, and we all know it.
Group consuming milk protein isolate compared to those.
Oh, it's just noise, isn't it, kids? It's just noise, and more mindless fucking noise. Not a single statement that is being made here is anything but mindlessly regurgitating outcome statistics by someone who has no ability to interpret outcome statistics at all. Just stunning.
Consuming soy protein. Prostate cancer typically occurs in men later in life,
So?
long after testosterone levels have peaked.
So?
During this time, the ratio of circulating estrogens to androgens may increase.
See that word again, may? Maybe not 2. Good.
By up to 40%. In other words,
And maybe not at all, because see how that said may? That means maybe not 2 is entirely on the table.
men become estrogen.
When you see the word may there, what that tells you with 100% surety is that the authors who are writing that statement have been paid to write that statement, and they are covering their own backsides by caveating it with the word may. Because they know damn well that their data does not fucking support the claim. Because while their data doesn't eliminate necessarily the odds that it may be true, it might not too. Still, that's the whole fucking point here.
Dominant. Increased estrogens are known to suppress testosterone production and compete with androgens for the androgen receptor. It has also been hypothesized.
So an educated guess is what that means. Hypothesized, yes.
That rising estrogen concentrations may promote mutations and proliferation of cells.
So why are you telling people that eating soy is a good idea then? This will be good.
There is some evidence suggesting that among 4 types of estrogens, 1 type is benign, 1 type is actually anti-carcinogenic.
Hang on. Where in the purple fuck are you getting these conclusions from? Exactly where are these ideas that you're spouting now coming from?
And the last 2 types of estrogens, the 4 and 16 alpha hydroxy estrogens, may be carcinogenic.
See the word maybe there? There we go. There's another example. So maybe not 2. Good.
In other words, like breast cancer, prostate cancer may be a consequence of time.
No. It doesn't say anything, does it? Maybe. So we can forget everything you say after maybe. Because you're trying to tell us you've got some science here. Putting papers up on the screen that say maybe this, maybe that, maybe the other thing is not showing us any science, is it? It's showing us your opinion and your confirmation bias, your ability to find papers that purport to support the idea that you want to support theologically. Okay.
Toxic 16-hydroxy estrogen levels. This study showed the consumption of 40 grams of soy protein per day
For how long?
for 6 months.
There you go. Okay. So what's that going to tell us about 6 years or 60? Not a damn fucking thing. So we're done with that too.
Increased urinary excretion of estrogens.
So that's your body undertaking a homeostatic mechanism to get rid of something it doesn't need. What's your point?
And the ratio of 2 to 16 alpha hydroxyestrone in men.
And
An increased ratio of 2 to 16 hydroxyestrone has been associated with
well, again, let's get back to movies by Nicolas Cage, drownings in swimming pools, incidents of sunburn, and shark attacks. Shall we? Associated, you say. So fucking what? And how strongly? Give us a statistic that we can interpret the strength of this association meaningfully and critically. You going to do that?
reduced breast cancer risk
No.
in women in numerous studies.
No. Associative values piss weak at best.
And one
And signal to noise ratio outside of the laughable range, even.
study has reported a reduced risk of prostate
No studies inform on risk whatsoever, so we can ignore the rest of this fucking sentence too. No.
cancer in men
No.
having an increased ratio of 2 to 16 hydroxyestrone.
Yeah, no.
This study suggests that soy protein may prevent
Maybe not too, so we can ignore this sentence as well. Still nothing of any value from Charlie Brown here. Vagunarized fucktard and all-around cunt.
prostate cancer by reducing exposure to the genotoxic effects
Genotoxic is a construct, it's an idea, it's a hypothesis.
of estrogen metabolites. The same team reported that soy
So
protein
it's probably rubbish too then.
suppresses androgen receptor expression
Yep, and so what?
in the prostate without changing serum hormone levels.
So?
Recall that when testosterone levels decline with age, estrogens compete with testosterone for androgen receptors. Suppression of androgen receptor expression in the prostate of men at a high risk of prostate cancer would protect the prostate from
High risk according to whom, on the basis of what? There are still no studies that can inform us on that whatsoever. None at all.
the toxic carcinogenic effects of the 16
Toxic carcinogenic effects is another construct, it's another opinion statement, it's another value judgment, it's not supported by science.
alpha hydroxyestrones. This could be beneficial for prevention of prostate
Could be is the same as may. Maybe not too. Fine. Another sentence that can be completely ignored is vacuous and of no value prognostically or practically to anybody.
cancer. This systematic review and meta-analysis of
Do you want to debate this one with me as well, Charlie Brown? That'll be fun. Any day you like, you can book into my calendar and we'll have a live debate about this study too.
observational studies found that vegetarians have a 25% reduced risk of ischemic heart disease,
No, I didn't find that at all.
mortality, and 10% reduced risk of prostate cancer
No, I didn't find that either.
mortality. Vegans were found to have a reduced all-cause mortality risk.
No, the exact opposite is true, in fact. The study was adjusted so hard as to turn it around 180 degrees on its ass and suggest that the outcome statistics were 180 degrees out of phase with what they in fact were as observed in the populations that were looked at in these studies. Incredible, boys and girls, but I kid you not, that's what was done.
risk and a 15% reduced risk of cancer.
Absolute nonsense, and you're also talking there about absolute relative is what you're talking about. Statistics rather than absolute. The absolute ones are the ones that are of utility anyway, not the relative ones because of vastly low incidence rates. What it boils down to is even if you did have a causal inference, which you don't, of a 30% change in risk, the actual change in numbers regarding an individual person's so-called risk of death is it turns out to be in the exposure rates would have to be in the hundreds of thousands of person years. a follow-up. Hundreds of thousands. So it's so close to zero as makes no odds to an individual given person's individual actual risk, even if it was cause and effect, which it isn't. And, you just need to be statistically competent to be able to make these arguments. And this clown here is clearly nothing of the sort.
Incidents. Elevated cholesterol is also associated with psoriasis.
Yeah. Why is that, do you think? Maybe to do with the fact that every single cell membrane of every cell in your body, including skin cells, is 50% cholesterol by weight and volume. And if you've got psoriasis, you've got skin damage going on that needs repairing, and so you need a high level of cholesterol being delivered there precisely in order to make those repairs.
Saturated fats and red meat activate the inflammatory cascades.
Rubbish. That is completely untrue. Absolutely, fundamentally, utterly untrue.
Autoimmune reactions and gut dysbiosis.
All of those things are completely untrue. Not a single statement of fact has just been made. Those are all opinions.
That are found in psoriasis patients, while fiber and flavonoids from plants suppress inflammatory pathways.
Absolute rubbish. Same argument. Just theological, made-up nonsense. Rubbish.
Diets with a high ratio of saturated fatty acids.
Oh, okay. I think, it's been an hour and 40 minutes. I think that's enough, boys and girls. I think we all see exactly the level and standard of the absolute, utter incompetence of this complete cunt. He knows absolutely nothing about science whatsoever, or how to make a decent inference of any kind. He's provided absolutely nothing but splashing up bits and bobs out of various papers, none of which prove a damn thing because none of which are based on actual science, to support a theology based on his quite extensive cherry picking that he's been doing here. So what he started out with was a title saying Why I Quit the Carnivore Lifestyle, or the Carnivore Diet, or whatever the hell it is. And he told us that his blood lipids went out of range for what somebody told him they would like to see, and that he experienced a little bit of muscle twitching, which we explained very simply as being part of the transition period and due to him changing his diet too suddenly at the beginning, we would suggest. And then he's gone on this tirade about what he believes the science absolutely supports, and all he's done is mindlessly regurgitate a theology without remotely visiting anywhere near objective reality or actual science. It's ridiculous. It's anti-humanist. It's the sort of thing that only a cunt undertakes, basically. It needs to stop. It needs to stop sooner than yesterday, frankly. Anyway, there it is. That's what I thought I'd do, is just show you how it goes when I'm just talking to a video off the top of my head, having not seen it ahead of time. That's the kind of thing you get here on the interwebs. And unfortunately, there are a large number of people who are simply not sophisticated enough to see through this nonsense. That's why I'm here. Glad I could help if I did help you. If not, well, sorry I couldn't help you. In the meantime, everybody in Australia and New Zealand needs to go and buy Stem Enhanced Hardcore Carnivore formulation. Everybody in all the other markets needs to go and buy the standard formulations until we can get you the Carnivore. Sooner rather than later would be good, because we'd like to get it available to everybody internationally. But that relies on the New Zealanders and Australians. So everybody put the pressure on them. Make sure you send all your New Zealand and Australian contacts the message. Go and buy that Stem Enhanced Hardcore Carnivore so we can get it. That'll be awesome. And don't forget, if you want to come and visit myself, Pim, Yellow Ted, the two dogs, and whoever else is here, including a whole bunch of animals, here on the farm, and do farm-related hijinks, stay here a bit, eat some food, do some other touristy holiday things while you're here as well, probably. Listen to some music, have a good time, kick back with us as well. Send us an email, and Ted and I will decide whether or not you should come. All right. All the details for all of that's going across the bottom of the screen right now. It's been going there for an hour and 40-something minutes, so if you haven't seen it by now, what are you paying attention to? I don't know. Okay, so that's where we're at today. Thanks for your patience. Those of you who tuned in for the first attempt at this live stream when we couldn't get the audio working, glad we sorted it out. That's the way it is. All right, see you next time when someone will be wrong on the interwebs and I can't be asked doing any editing. Ciao for now. I suppose I should sing the song again, shouldn't I? Because we shouldn't really finish a live stream without singing the national anthem of Pimbatia. How rude of me. It goes a little bit something like this. Steak and eggs and steak. That's what you should have for your breakfast. Delicious. Eggs and steak and eggs. Just making sure you heard. I'm sure they got it, Ted. Right, see you next time, boys and girls. No, you hang up. Me? No, you hang up. No, you hang up. Okay, I will then.